being here, dude.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Yeah.
Today we have with us Adam Lazzara, lead singer, frontman of Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
You guys are what, 8 albums? Is that correct?
Yeah.
8 albums since 2002?
It sounds crazy to say it out loud because even with the last record, 152 came out last October, and which has been wild for us because any other record we put out, it's always been like in like spring, early summer.
Okay.
And then so even just the timing of it and how it kind of like it feels much different. But even as we were like doing press leading up to it, or even internally talking about it, like, it's like, oh my God, like it doesn't sound real,
Right?
Because but you know, I'm just one of the luckiest guys I know.
Yeah,
like it's just,
I hear you,
yeah,
man.
that we're able to do it. You know?
Yeah, I was digging into that record recently, and I think I saw. I don't know if I heard you say this somewhere or I read it somewhere, but like the producer you worked with hadn't really worked with many bands before. Like, was it more like electronic music or
a
something?
live band? Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know that at first. And it like I think had I known it at first, I would have been like a lot more like. Oh.
So that wasn't like the appeal to say like I want to work with somebody who is totally out of that element. It was just kind of that. It wasn't like intentional to try to find somebody who didn't know. Okay.
No, but it's exactly what we needed.
Okay.
Hopefully for people it translates in the music in my mind, and for me and in my experience, that's exactly what we needed.
Well, listening to it, I feel like it's a departure for sure. I mean, I can hear the core elements of the band, but like there's so much soundscape stuff happening and like synth and just all that kind of stuff, which is really cool.
There's the one song "Sold," which was like the first single, whatever. That sound, that synth sound, was when. Because like we had the song originally sounded more like a just power Green Day song, and then so it's kind of like this one's just some bullshit we have, and but then Tushar, like we were like sitting down and we were at the studio in Los Angeles, and he was like, oh, maybe this, and right when he hit the sound, I was like, I could listen to that all day long.
Right.
And then but he's like a wizard with stuff, like, because it's more like what you're saying, like electronic or just straight pop music, like Demi Lovato.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you guys connect with him? How did that?
It was here. We met him here at Sue.
Oh, is that when you came in to? Who are you working with here? You
Steve Aoki.
Steve Aoki, right.
Yeah. So like Steve Aoki calls and says they wanted me to do some top line stuff. And then I was like, well, and then with any of that stuff, they want to use the band, like Taking Back Sunday rather than Adam Lazzara, because just algorithm stuff. And so I was like, well, the band's name's going to be on, like, let's get the band here.
Right.
So then the guys flew down, and I don't think they were expecting us to approach it like that, and so like first it was like weird whenever like we all were here, like, and Tushar was the like producer engineer that was doing that. He's done a bunch of other stuff with Steve Aoki, and it was kind of like working with them and the way they worked and how it was fast, efficient, and they didn't. I don't know if it's like because of like our age or what, but with a lot of stuff inside of the computer, like for a long time, and it wasn't until this experience of making this record that my mind flipped on it. Like it rocked my world. Because for a long time it's like, oh, that one's cheating, or I'm not going to use that because it's blah blah blah, or I'm not going to use. And then, but it's like, I'm like, dude, they're tools, man. Like
use them. I mean,
but it was like this kind of like how I was learning and how I was taught over the years. Like it's like this like purist like recording thing, and there's still a bit of that I don't think I'll ever let go of. But like that, but this experience and like watching that, and then because the whole time I'm like, what's he doing? And like, it took everything in me to be like, don't say anything, don't say anything.
Right,
and
trust it,
But it came out, so in that regard, from like watching like the way they worked and just how, because those guys, like those DJ guys, are like, it's a a whole new world, like from anything we're used to, or like I'm used to.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, for sure.
And that was just so appealing to me, just like that alone. And then so like we came in here, and then Steve Aoki is like the busiest guy I've ever met, and so he's flying in from like some crazy place, and then because he has a show in Charlotte at 2 a.m. And
Wow,
then
it starts at 2 a.m. Wow.
Starts at 2 a.m. I was like,
Where's that at?
right? Yeah, I
know where
said that is exactly what I said. And then they told me the name. I'm like, not my thing.
Yeah.
But and then so like we got in. I mean, we got here like 10. I set everything up. I patched everything in, and then Tashar came, and what we realized later was part of Tashar's role is like go there, vet everybody, and then if everybody's cool, Steve Aoki will come in and like do thing.
Okay.
We didn't realize till it was like that night, like he was like checking to make sure we were cool,
Right?
Like, but also doing his thing.
Okay.
And then so and he just like they just kind of had like this thing of like here's a bunch of ideas. I'll just play them for you if anything catches your ear, like boom. And there was this kind of guitar loop.
Yeah.
And our drummer Mark heard it and was like, I got an idea for that. And then we just hit the ground running. Steve gets here later in the day. And then so basically we were here from like 10 till 11:30. And then left with like, oh my God, we just made this thing. Because normally, especially for me, I'll take forever and I'll harp and I'll put just every detail that does not matter and no one's going to hear but me. I'll like hold up the whole project.
Yeah,
for them.
I'm
We
very
talk
familiar with
about
that.
that all the time because you're
That's
a
me.
fucking tweaker.
Yeah.
Like,
It's hard
he
not
really
to
is like a
be,
meth head, like when it comes to mixing and stuff. And finally, I have to like, well, last time I sent it to somebody else and like just tell him it's okay because you won't listen to me half the time.
We have a guest here. We can't bash on Jason this whole entire time.
I will though.
But I relate to that.
I don't take it as bashing though, because it's just this thing, which I'm sure like there could be a whole nother, like we could have a whole conversation just about that. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, because it's in like I notice it in like my everyday life too. It's just how my brain's wired.
Overanalyze everything.
Yeah.
Do you
Like
prefer
so much therapy just trying to undo it. Like,
Do you prefer to work fast though? Did you like working fast like that?
now I do. I used to
Okay.
hate it because I felt too much pressure.
Right.
But now I realize that works better for me in most
Okay.
instances. And I didn't even know because that like working like that was never an option. We were fortunate enough, which you have too, to work with like Eric Valentine, the best.
Yeah.
Just the best.
Oh yeah.
And not fast.
No.
No, but so good.
Oh, yeah.
So and then most anyone else that we've worked with or that I've been in the studio with, it's kind of like works like that.
Right.
But there's this whole other world. And then so because for more to answer your question, for me the thing is it doesn't give me the opportunity to get stuck. There's times where I'll still feel stuck throughout the process, and then a lot of the working quick was also me learning how to work quick.
Right.
And that was difficult at times.
Well, and I figured like no matter how you work, like when you listen to the song later on, you could always find something that you like. I would have done that differently. It doesn't matter how much
Always.
time you spend on it, but
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, favorite Bob Dylan quote, one of them is "A song's never done."
right.
So, and just like any medium, if you're like a painter or a writer or like whatever,
Yeah.
you're always gonna be so hypercritical about your work. And then in my case, I just get shitty, like
Right.
to myself.
Yeah.
Like you can do better. You can do better. It's like, no, I can't, and it's fine.
Yeah. Leave it
Yeah, I
alone.
mean, and
Move
like-
on to the next one.
Yeah. Well,
We're all perfectionists. I mean, that's how it is, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think working with somebody like Eric and other people in that have that mindset. I mean, I modeled so much of what I do after him.
Yeah.
And I remember working with him where it was like playing like a small little guitar part over and over and over and over. And it wasn't about like I'd be like, man, I played it exactly right. There was nothing wrong with that performance, but he was always looking for that little that magical moment, maybe in a flaw or whatever it was, something that you did that made it stand out and its own little unique thing. And so like coming from working with people like that to when you're working in the computer, you're in the box so much, you can really number one, you have the ability to say, well, we can capture this now and I can always come back to it and tweak it later. But also it's more efficient because just through the workflow itself, you're not trying to get out in the live room with hardware and dial in tones perfectly and that kind of thing, right? I mean,
because too, it's like because I think we come from a similar place of like this. Well, we're gonna have to figure it out ourselves, like if we want. So and I think from this, and like I could be wrong, but so then I think with that. Like you just kind of like learn in a certain way. And then for me, I just thought, oh, well, this is how everybody's going to. But then you're in this environment to where like session players or like things like that, or these engineers that are just quiet and sick. And then like this thing of like, oh, like spending a day getting this kick drum sound right is just not an option. So you got to get it right then.
Right.
Like, and quit.
Yeah. But I love the record, and it's that was the first thing I noticed was this. It felt like a departure, and I was just curious if that was like, something you guys were seeking now on your 8th album. Like we're gonna
intentional.
Like we want to change in direction or something. I mean, it still feels like a rock band,
right?
But there's so many more sonic elements that felt a little new to me for you guys.
Yeah, and the same with us too. We knew we needed something different because it's like, okay, we can go in and make a thing like exactly like we did the last one and the one before that and the one and the one before that, but like that's but that kind of felt like the more of the safe like we know kind of what the outcome will be if we do that. To whereas with this, it's like, oh, and that's much more exciting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, yeah. So I was thinking back, you and I were introduced, and I think we've talked about this before, but through Kian Riordan, right?
Yeah.
And so when you met, I'm assuming you met Kian working on the self-titled Take Back Sunday album with Eric.
Yeah.
But I was actually looking back because I met Kian through Eric. We worked with Eric, and then I was
or like right before we did that self-titled record, right?
Yeah. So we went in there and we had just signed a development deal, and we were basically making demos. I mean, what we were going to keep some of it and release it, and we ended up getting dropped from Roadrunner Records, and the music never came out. But Eric had just.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened.
Oh yeah, it's well.
Dude, I've heard. There's like. I'm sorry.
We went through that a couple times, so but it's just the way it works, But
It's mostly our fault.
Yeah, probably
self-sabotage.
Yeah,
like, kind of.
But Eric was in our corner.
Big of you to say that.
Yeah.
But Eric
a whole
was.
other podcast.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a whole other podcast.
We won't go into it.
Yeah,
But
but Eric was kind of like he had gotten it. I mean, he was getting in the van with us and traveling to shows and running sound. He was like, he was like a true mentorship, and he'd built that console, and I knew he had your record coming up.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like gonna test run it, I guess. Like get it was like two birds, one stone. We're gonna get in there. We're gonna get some demos tracked. I remember we showed up to the studio and we were supposed to start one whatever day we got there, and they were just like still trying to finish assembling it in the control room. And he was like, "We're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to start, guys." But yeah, and so
crazy.
and I was gonna do a solo project with Kian that never came to fruition, but we just over like a year we were like remotely exchanging ideas, and we just never got in a room together. But I remember he sent you and I an email, and it was like. The subject was something like two cool dudes from NC or something.
Yeah, like I think. Well, it's like funny too because I was talking with Eric one night, and then he's like, "Hey, do you know this guy Jason? He's from Charlotte." And I'm like, "I don't really know anybody in Charlotte." And like he was like, "You really need to meet this guy. I think you guys will get along."
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But and it ended up being that you guys because I think you and I emailed some. We never actually connected in person until later. You did the record here with Mike Pepe and Mike Spone, and then I guess sometime after that, because I had just started working here around that time.
Yeah. Well, and then too, I was trying to focus in more on like the engineer and mixing side of things. So I was like, could I just come watch you do shit in the studio?
I gotta say, man, one of the things that like I feel like is could give people true insight into you as a person, which I always think was a really cool experience. I was in here because you reached out to Chris and I about coming in and just hanging out and shadowing and stuff like that. And I was working with this band. I think they were called Never Home. They were like maybe like their first or second time in a recording studio. They're like a local band from Raleigh-Durham area or something like that. And so you and I talked about you coming in, and I'm like, well, I knew before you came into the studio that they were huge fans of yours. And so I was a little like, should Adam come in for this? Because I didn't know how they would respond to it, especially being young guys.
And then it might be distracting because they're because their idea of me is probably much different than
well,
like
but
You get red light syndrome, and they're like,
oh
we
shit,
love
Adam
this band too,
Lazzara.
so
Right, but I mentioned to them, I was like, so do you guys?
It's like, no, if you knew, you wouldn't feel. Yeah.
But I said to the guys, I was like, would you mind if I have somebody come in and just kind of assist and shadow and help out in the studio? And they're like, yeah, I think they just thought you're going to be like a college kid or something like that.
Yeah. Like,
and I'm like, but I figured I should tell them ahead of time. I'm like, yeah, it's Adam Lazzara. And they flipped out. Like they were so fucking excited. And when you got here, they played it cool. I mean,
they played it so
They were
cool.
super cool, but like, you know, pulling me aside. Yeah.
yeah.
But like,
no, that's exactly
they
how
were
it was.
they were definitely starstruck. And I was just like, to me, I mean, and I know you talked to me about you were trying to kind of, you know, and this is how I got into this side of, you know, music as well, is like being the artist in a studio all the time and kind of like observing and wishing I knew a little bit more and not really being able to get my hands on it and do it myself, and finally getting to a point where I'm like, I just want to do it. I want to know how to do it. And let me just get into studios and be around people that do it and figure it out.
Yeah.
And for them, I know that was like a really fucking cool experience to have you here. And
as they're doing this. It like wasn't until the end, because I think and I hate that I don't remember names, but like I like took a photo with one of the guys, like outside, like before I had to leave, so I like go get the kids or something. And it like wasn't until then that I was like, oh, I think they are familiar with the band,
right?
But it didn't even, because
right.
I mean, you know, like, how is this headphone system routed again?
Right.
like that's where my brain is.
Yeah, but I mean, anyway, that was really cool. But so let's talk about your song. So how we do this, man, and I told you ahead of time, is the whole premise is like looking at songs that are the cornerstones of your life's soundtracks. And you sent us some really awesome songs. I mean, I was excited because a lot of these songs are meaningful to me. You know, they're songs that I really love, and I know for you as well.
Yeah. I'm always surprised with people's. We've done 6.
You're our 6th episode.
I think 6, and I'm always surprised with what people have.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't expect
like to get like a little like glimpse behind. the
well, because you know it's
curtain,
like you know
you love Missy Elliott too,
right? Yeah. Well, it's also it's like I think you know the kind of music you create.
Right.
Is in a genre. I mean, you guys. I mean,
it's
talking about
specific,
talking about your last record being a departure. I feel like you guys have explored a lot I mean, I wouldn't say you've been constrained to one genre as a band, you know. But
I think that same thing through our actions. But also, though, there's like we're like when you think of Taking Back Sunday, like you think of a specific scene.
A scene, yes.
And like, or like, like genre thing. And then it's up to us to like, dude, that's like that is the prize that my eye is on. It's like, I got to change people's mind about me. Because because I'll have people come over to me and say like, oh, like you were that emo guy. And then I'm like, bitch, I am. And no. Like, I'm not the emo guy. I'm just the lucky guy that's in a band. If you want to call it that, you call it whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Well, I think like...
But for myself, you know, like...
Yeah. Well, the type of shows you play over the years, getting, you know, Warped Tour, and those kind of experiences, I think, put you in that... I mean, it's easy for people to kind of like put bands that were involved in that in a certain box, right? But I mean, like, I listened to the second album you did with Eric, the self-titled album. Like the first song, when I first heard that song, I was like, this sounds like Jane's Addiction almost, like, but with a guy like screaming his ass off, right? I mean, it's just like, so you know what I mean? It's like there's different. There's just it's not like you've stayed in this one genre, but to hear you say like put like Michael Jackson or Christopher Cross on your favorite songs, it's like. not necessarily what I would expect, but that's the beautiful thing is like we create certain types of music, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's
like all we're listening
all we're
to.
yeah,
or, like,
you know,
taking in.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about it. What would be a good first song to start on?
So if we start with the Dire Straits,
Okay.
it's actually a really fun story.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
So my well, it's fun for me. Hopefully, it'll be fun for you and whoever is watching and listening. But so I was born in Alabama, and my grandfather they made boats, and we lived in Sheffield, like Muscle Shoals, you know.
Yeah.
And so they had the launch site, and the launch site was it's where they would put the boats in the water for the first time.
Right.
And at the launch site there was a house, and I lived upstairs with my parents, and downstairs my dad's younger sister, Diana, we call her BB, lived downstairs. So I'd spent like a whole lot of time with her, and one of my earliest music memories is riding in the car with her, listening to this Dire Straits record. And this song specifically, I remember I was in the passenger seat, which is a testament to like the 80s were wild, dude, because I was a little guy.
Yeah.
No seatbelt on.
No.
Yeah, I didn't need it.
Yeah.
No, the car, I'd be surprised if it had more than one.
Did BB have a beer?
Yeah, I was gonna
She
say,
drinking?
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
my dad
That's my
did.
memory.
Right,
Dad
just
in the front seat with a beer
drinking a
going to the
beer.
hardware store, and I'm in the front seat.
Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, this is completely
Normal life, right?
Yeah. They're or like the station wagons, they have the
Yeah.
back bench. It's like
Yeah, and you're facing backwards, just like
backwards, yeah.
Smoking cigarettes with the windows off.
yeah, like they crack them like this much. You're like, oh god. So anyway, I was in the car with her, and we pull in the driveway, and the stairs to get upstairs were like outside of the house, and here comes my mom tearing down the stairs, furious, and I'm like, what's going on? And she just starts, and then her and my aunt get into it because my mom's like, you're gonna ruin his hearing, what are you doing, blah blah, because she's just ripping Dire Straits as loud as it can, and we're in the car having the best time. And so I think so that was and then so anytime I've heard the song since, I'm like, it takes me right back
to-
there.
Yeah.
And there's also something about Mark Knopfler, like the sound of the guitar. ZZ Top has it sometimes too, like this era of it sounds like it's hooked up not into an amplifier, but like to a diesel engine somehow. Like I don't know what it is.
yeah.
And so that sound, and that's probably why I love that sound so
Yeah.
much is because of that.
Oh, I have spent time, like too much time on the internet trying to figure out like
What
on
he
YouTube,
does.
like how to.
He's playing a line 6.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a Kemper. I think it's a
the
Kemper.
first line 6 pod.
Now, he doesn't play with the pick.
Next.
He doesn't. He just uses his
Fingers.
fingers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fingers.
No
But
pick.
I think it's like because I listen to that guitar tone, and I'm like, is it like it sounds like humbuckers or something? It's like it sounds compressed. It's, but is it the tone knob rolled all the way off? Is it a wah pedal? Just
Like
like
kinda
just in
barely
that.
cocked,
Yeah, you know what I
yeah.
mean. In that just to really darken it up, but. I don't know, but it sounds like a fucking
just
diesel engine. It's
love
just
it so much.
it's such an amazing guitar tone, man.
A great story about that song that I learned later because Sting's on it, and Sting did the I want my that right. Oh, sorry.
Very good.
And then or maybe I meant to.
Ooh.
Sting,
Cameras didn't see that.
yeah,
Some weird's going on under here.
yeah. There's some glad handing under the table. He did that melody, which is also the don't stand so. The reason he did it was because now he's gonna be getting. Not only the there's like the co-write stuff, all that, but now he's getting more through the back end because he used the melody from another Police song.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Holy shit.
What a business move.
Damn. I wonder if that was so. Like he planned on that ahead of time. Is that what the story is, or?
So the story goes
Oh
that I
my
read
God.
on the internet.
Right,
so
right.
maybe it's not true.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got to be true.
I want to believe it's true though.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yes, Sting,
Yeah.
you get it, man.
I just always remember the video. It's like the animated
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, like real boxy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
good one.
MTV.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to it. This
Yeah,
is.
great riff to go deaf to for sure.
Yeah.
way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. We got some
Yeah, that is a kick-ass song, man. This one brings me back. This is the shit my dad listened to growing up, you know, and it's just like.
It's also like 10 minutes long, isn't it?
Well,
It's
it didn't
long.
matter back then. It didn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it should never
Yeah,
matter.
like
but
right now, there's 2.5 more minutes of this, and it feels like it's
they
been
just keep
on
going.
It just says-
Yeah.
They just keep
Song's
going.
been done like for a while. Like any like information that you needed, you got it. But like they're just riffing because it feels too good.
They love
Like
it.
Chuck Mangione.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're a child of the '80s, then. So how old are you now? You're
I'm 42,
42.
which
Okay.
feels also crazy to say out loud.
Yeah.
42. Yeah, time flies.
I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're still young. You're younger than. Well,
You're younger
he's a baby, but us two, we're older.
He's actually my dad. I say it on every
I'm
episode.
not your dad.
Aw.
I am not your dad.
I can see the resemblance. Now that
No, you can't.
no, you cannot. Get out. Interview over.
42. And you've got kids.
3, yeah.
Wow.
There's 10. Keaton's 15, which is
15,
bonkers.
wow.
Yeah. And then always has something to say. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, but he's such a better kid than I was.
Right.
So
Well, that's what you
I'm
want.
So
That's what you-
grateful for
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's 15, Ace is 10, and Sylvie's 6.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
I used to see you out on the porch.
Yeah.
When I would, you live in a different house now. You moved, but
Yeah.
when we lived in the same neighborhood, I would see you every morning with your coffee,
Yeah.
with your kids. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd just be, man, that porch was it was one of the best porch.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like porch sitting, and that one was just so great. But we moved to Raleigh for 2 years because Misha, my wife, was getting, she got a master's from NC State. She has 2 masters now, so I always make the Metallica joke, like master,
Right.
which she doesn't think is funny at all. But
Yeah.
man, I love it. And but yeah, so she did that. So we moved because we thought, like, peace, Charlotte, it's been great. Like, she's gonna go through the program and then we can go wherever. But then, you know, the pandemic happens,
Yep.
and we realized, like, I guess when you're in a place, or for me, I didn't realize how deep the roots we had put down here were.
Yeah.
Because, you know, forest through the trees thing.
Sure.
And so just for the kids, like Misha's sister lives here, the kids' cousins are here. And so, yeah, so then we came back. But I do miss being right there just because of the convenience.
Yeah.
And then also it was easier to make yourself just go on a walk because it's like, well, we're going to see something crazy.
It's a great neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we were there for like 11 years. And then when we came back, we're like, well, not going to buy a house in this neighborhood anymore because
Yeah.
the price is...
Yeah.
And parking is impossible
Dude.
on that street. Like,
It's the...
yeah.
Pull
But-
in your own driveway and someone's like charging you $20.
Yeah.
flagging you in.
It's like, I'm surprised they haven't started doing stuff like that.
So what's the next song we have on the list?
Sailing.
Sailing by Christopher Cross.
Which was awesome because it was on when we came in, or
Yeah.
when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I already told the story, so I guess we'll move on. No,
I was making coffee. I didn't hear it. So.
Yeah, let's hear it again.
so Christopher, my dad had this. I mean, at the time, I didn't appreciate it because I didn't know anything about it. But he had this really cool stereo system, and it was like the silver, like old, like all the switches were like the heavy ones. You know, you hit them and then, like they had the weight. And it's just like probably one of the reasons why, like, I mean, my attraction, like studio gear and stuff like that, because I just like looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he had this really cool, and I remember when he sold it, like put an ad in the paper, somebody came up and picked it up, and you could tell like he was sad. He was really sad about it. But I remember sitting in the living room and like listening to that record with both my parents. And that was a big deal for me because like I don't have a lot of memories of them that like they weren't just like I don't have many memories of them liking each other.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So, but anytime Christopher Cross comes on, it's like there's something happens inside of me that I don't quite understand, and I wonder if it's, or like I've wondered if it's because that's the memory that I have attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like for a long time, this was like a song that I was like, it would be in that like guilty pleasure kind of thing. Like, I don't want my friends to know
Right.
that I'm listening to Christopher Cross and said no effects.
Right.
But then, yeah, like once, like, I mean, you know, like in my 20s somewhere, I was like, you know what? I like what I like, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, now he's cool as shit. Like, everyone loves Christopher Cross.
Yeah.
Did you see him play
What's
here
not to love?
last
No,
year?
he played at the Neighborhood Theater. No.
Yep.
We were, I don't know, we were somewhere. But I remember driving by and being like, no way.
Yeah.
I actually called my dad. Dad, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Because every now and again, like we saw Three Dog Night. My dad came down and we went to see him together, which was awesome. But yeah, no, I didn't get to see him, and I was bummed.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, man. It does something similar to me as well. It's like the harmonies in that song. I think it's one of the most perfect vocal like recordings ever. The way that those vocals are captured, it's so perfect, and the harmonies they're like, I don't know, just the way that they move together. It feels really.
Yeah, and
It
then,
does
like, how it's
something to me.
delivered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just fucking perfect,
The whole
man.
song, the recording sounds great. Like it's like one of the best sounding cross sticks I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Dude, too, it's crazy because that was at a time to where, like, I mean, talk about studio folks, like they were like best of the best and these crazy budget, like there's a whole part with chimes. You could
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
they spent a lot of money making
they
that
hired a
record.
guy, they rented the thing, maybe they own it. They
Yeah.
hired a guy to play it. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great, because we were talking with Dire Straits though about like MTV and that whole thing. Christopher Cross is the best example of video killed a radio star. Because
Absolutely.
his career and like his trajectory and like the whole thing, like he's playing, I mean, you know, like Sheds.
Yeah.
And then here comes MTV, and all of a sudden, like, it has to be like a certain type of face to match and like the aesthetic and all that, and that's when things started going the opposite way for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate because, like, oh my God, he's incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's making a big comeback though. Not that he ever really went anywhere, but
No, but yeah, he definitely didn't have, the look to be a pop star. But that's almost, to me, that's part of the appeal. I see that guy, and you never would expect a voice like that to come from him.
Yeah, not at all.
And, like, I've seen,
man,
like,
it's beautiful.
he's on stage with, like, a football jersey and just,
Yeah.
like, some khaki shorts or something. He just looks
Yeah.
so out of place, but it's like,
he don't give a
he
fuck.
sounds
Yeah.
amazing, man. Yeah. Well,
He
let's-
doesn't have to give a fuck.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because the proof is in the pudding.
Well, it's not far down to paradise. At least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away and find tranquility. Oh, the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Believe me. It's not far to Never Land. Reason to pretend. And if the wind is right, you can find the joy of innocence again. Oh, the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see. Believe me. Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it. Just a dream in the wind to carry me. Soon I will be free.
See, and then here they're getting like a little heavier handed on that triangle.
Yeah. Dynamics.
Dude, well, it's like wild too, because then like you think about like studio now, or like what we were talking about earlier, like in the thing, lickety split like so fast, and then but then it's like, okay guys, what do we got on the board today? Triangle. All right, get on in there.
Yeah.
And then like probably a whole day.
Yeah. I mean, it's the luxury we have now to be able to do, to do it so quickly and so efficiently. It's pretty amazing, And I guess we should embrace that, because it's awesome that it opens the door to so much that we wouldn't be able to do, because most people that just don't have the budgets to get the crazy percussionists and the string section and all that stuff. So it's awesome. But you think about back in this time, I mean, like that percussion section, that's pretty elaborate, and the string section and all that. I mean, they had that song alone probably took weeks to track.
Yeah, dude, strings, and then like, and that's not to mention, like you just said, synth.
Oh, there's like stacked,
keys.
so many stacked synths on that.
Yeah, like,
and to get tight, at the vocalists, everybody, to be able to get in and execute that in a way to where like, this is going to tape. We're going to we've got to know this song and be able to perform it perfectly. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, like working in a recording studio. Recording has become a part of my writing process. I get in here and like, I have a new idea. So I'll lay it down with an acoustic guitar or a keyboard and sing a rough vocal. And then I will build in sections sometimes. I get to take that home and listen to it. And so many times I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be perfect, because, I'm
it's
writing.
like just for me.
It's just for me.
Yeah.
Right. But then I live with that for so long that when I go back to replace it, sometimes I never can beat the, whatever it is, that of it being a new song, that emotional connection that you had when you're first singing it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I end up just like keeping these really rough takes a lot of times, and
Half the things you send me, I'm like, perfect. Keep
yeah,
it.
and
Done.
and it's like you
Did you do it to a click? So I
like,
can
think
just
about that
come play
alone.
on
Like
it.
nobody could write and create music like that at this time. You
Yeah,
were
it's
hiring
it's
studio space to get
79 to 82. That's like not a lot of, a lot of stuff sounded similar to that after the fact.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like, yeah, because even if you were like what you're talking about, or like if you like have a thing and you're sending it, it's like, hey, I'm gonna ship this reel to you. So like,
Right.
and that's not practical. Like, like who could like
Hope
there's
it doesn't
probably.
get fucked up in the mail.
Yeah.
Like too hot on a truck somewhere and melt.
And who's got a tape machine?
Right.
Like those things aren't cheap. They weren't. They're not cheap now. They weren't cheap then.
Yeah.
Maybe Christopher Cross had a tape machine. That would make perfect sense.
Yeah, he might have. He's the
Phil
kind of guy.
Collins has a tape machine.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, just like guys like us, like we wouldn't just have that in the.
Right.
But it's man, when you were saying that, it made me think about. That's what I was gonna say. The keeping the demo, the rough stuff.
Oh, okay.
So on the new record, a lot of the songs, it's the demo vocal. Specifically, there's this one song called "The Stranger," which I think we put last on the record, and it's like I spent like a day and a half like trying to beat it, and then like trying to make the words make more sense.
Right.
But it just nothing felt right. And then the song sold, demo vocals.
Yeah.
But same thing. Like I'm just
Wow.
thinking, well, I'll just fucking yell this out.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna change it, but it'll hold it for now, so we'll have the idea.
Right.
And then come time to like try to beat it, it's like, oh, I guess I.
What do you think that's?
Yes, I can.
Because that happens to me a lot. What do you think that's from? Do you think it's like now? Is it? I wonder about this for me. Like when it comes time to track the vocal later.
Yeah.
Is it like the pressure of like, well, now this is the moment when I have to capture this perfect thing.
So it has to be.
And this is going to be this way forever. Whereas early on in the process, when I'm just demoing it, and I'm going to share it with just my, these guys playing my band with me. We're all buddies. We have this intimate connection where it's never gonna, no one else is gonna hear it. Like, so I don't care. They're not gonna judge me. And then I'm just only thinking about the song. I'm like so locked into it. So that's why I feel like I do that a lot. Like we put a record out in 2022, and our last record that we did together, and it was like I came in here during things were shut down during COVID, doing a lot of the initial tracking, and I would just use the little MIDI controller to play a keyboard part and sing as I'm tracking, and I'm like, yeah, this is I'm throwing this out. But I could never, it wasn't really about I could my other performances, I could beat them from like a technical level. Like,
Right.
you know, it's like, well, my intonation's
See-
better or whatever. But it was like, I don't know. I just didn't feel.
So it was emotive, I
Yeah,
guess.
I guess that's what it is. Is there's something more honest about the earlier performances.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's that because like truth,
Yeah.
because like, well, and like real, right? So in this, or like we talk about this a lot, and it's this thing of like, typically this comes up in because it's any conversation is like you have to do better at social media, and then I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I'm going to do what's true to me and what feels right. And then like, if you like for the marketing and things like, that's why we're working with you. So you can help other thing, like kind of thing. And, so that's when the conversation comes up, but I feel that things are, like there's so much, like you can't tell what's fucking real anymore. Like you go on, like you open up like Instagram or like however, like whatever thing. And it's like, you're very like maybe 9 times out of 10 you're getting this fabricated thing, but it's being pushed to you like, oh, this is just my day, whatever.
Right.
And but same thing with like the big thing right now, as I'm sure you know, it is like saturation. Everybody's talking about saturation. There's this saturation plugin and there's this thing. It's like, well, okay, like through that, it's like real easy to get wrapped up in like, oh, there's this new shit. Like I'm the worst about that. I'm like moving spaces right now and I'm like trying to organize like just pedals. And I'm like, oh God, I have a problem. I have such a problem. This is bad. And but like, so with the saturation stuff, like what are you chasing? Well, you're chasing some kind of imperfection because it's too clean and too perfect to feel right. So then that to me makes sense of like why you would keep like the original thing that's not perfect. It's rough around the edges, like maybe like whatever, is because it's real.
Yeah.
And like, and you're not gonna have to spend 45 minutes, 2 hours like running it through everything to try to fuck it up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
it's fucked up on its own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's
Jack
true.
Antonoff, that's one of the reasons why I've just always loved that guy, because he'll let some shit fly. That's like, you know who else does it now is you ever listen to Dijon?
No.
He's this guy. He does every, like he's like I don't know if in the things that I've read, I haven't heard him call himself a producer, but he should.
Okay.
Because he's all about like there's so much room, just noise, like ambient noise. Like it's like if you listen to, there's a song he has called Many Times, and there's another one called That or The Dress. Those two specifically. It's like if you listen to it on headphones, coming from someone that's like to where I'm like still trying to learn this world, you know, the studio world. It's like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong.
Right.
This is wrong. But then I'm like, no, it's exactly what it should be, you know? And then like, so then it's like this deconstruction thing happens of like trying to like undo whatever knots I've tied up here.
Right.
Right.
So anyways, that's all
No,
my
I
thoughts
find
on
myself
that.
doing that a
Sorry.
lot though, because you're
Long
right.
winded.
It's like if I look back at the recordings that I gravitated towards as a young person, like in my teens, 20s, when I was first getting into the idea of making music and recording music, it was all the raw, imperfect shit. Even if you go back to like the greatest band ever, the Beatles, I mean, like listen to those
Right.
recordings, you know, they're,
It's just drums.
yeah.
Yeah.
Take off your left ear.
Yeah.
There's no drums.
Right.
Like,
And there's so
it's-
many
it's
mistakes.
amazing.
There used to be like, you know, stuff had imperfections and everything now is like super perfect and polished. So you kind of like want to go
You wanna go back to
that
it. Yeah,
as
we
you
long
hear
for
along this.
that.
But then there's a way to blend it, I think, too. You know?
There is.
Find
yeah.
a balance.
There is.
But-
Yeah. I mean, I think it's unfortunate because what happens is people who are just consumers of art and music, they hear so much mainstream music and they hear this perfection and they don't know what it's like to hear just true human expression sometimes, you know. So and when they
Yeah,
do,
it could be jarring.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's either gonna be something that when they hear it, they embrace it and they're like, "Holy shit, I want more of that," or sometimes it might just be too foreign to them. I mean, but for me, I know that's what I try to chase in here, and I find myself doing that same thing where I'm like, "This is too perfect. Let me open the distress, or like run it through the distressors, or
Do that overstare.
the overstare, or whatever I can do." And Chris is like this as well. We're always just like chasing ways to fuck things up.
Yeah.
and it's like, well, maybe let's, I don't know, like find a way to just not make it so perfect on the front end. And I think the way to do that is, keep the demo vocals. I mean, just get in there and do it, you know? And it's like, I love recording like that. The problem I have where it gets a little bit contradictory is when then I have to mix. Because then I'm like, then that tweaker that he was talking about comes out where I'm like, it's not even like I'm trying to get rid of the imperfections. I'm trying to make it perfectly imperfect or whatever, you know, where it's
like just so everything's like like fitting in the right place, which is hard. That's for me. That's really
I
really
think
hard.
I mean, it's hard for most people, but I don't know. I mean, that's it's an interesting thing that's happening.
It's almost like a over like or like with like there, like it went too far one way, so now like the corrections come in, and then hopefully it'll land in the middle somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Because or like with like the pop music that you're hearing, that's squeaky clean, no imperfections, no nothing. Like it's gone so far that way that now there's this thing happening of like, okay, that maybe that was a little too far. Let's reel it back in, and then hopefully it'll settle where it needs to. We're just in the like we're part of the story of like this greater thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Same with social media, like all those.
It's everything now. I mean, you know, in all areas of life. I mean,
like we're the experiment.
we are. Well, so what did you have next on the playlist?
You know what? I don't know.
Remember the Time.
Remember the Time, Michael Jackson.
Holy shit. Okay.
This is right before. I love Michael Jackson. Now, saying that now is complicated, which I understand. But at this time, so this album came out in like 90 or 91. And then, so right before Nevermind. Because Nevermind is like the marker in the road. It's like, oh, I heard this, everything changed.
Absolutely.
But so Michael Jackson, I was just a huge fan, and I had Dangerous, which is the album that's on cassette. And I remember I had this little boombox that my dad still has like in his garage, and he'll just put on like some weird AM radio. Like, what are you listening to? I don't know, some angry guy on there yelling at him. And this little boombox. And in my room, I spent so much time with that. And then the video came out, and it's all like Egyptian themed. And at the end, he like spins around and turns into sand. I'm like, what am I seeing?
Yeah.
But also around the time Dangerous came out, that there was like this world premiere event of the video for Black and White. And it happened sometime, maybe after like, remember like TGIF, like Full House, Family Matters.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that night.
Yeah.
When that video came out.
So like it comes out, they show the video, and then at the end there's this extended thing to where he dances on a car, smashes it, and turns into a panther, walks away.
Yep.
It gave me nightmares for months. I don't know why, but I remember just being terrified of this part, this extra part in this Michael Jackson video, which I've probably only seen one time in my whole life, and it was there on television, you know.
Yeah.
What a wild thing to think about, just side note.
Yeah.
There was a world premiere of a music video by this pop artist who is like the top in the world, and it was on primetime television at like 8 o'clock at night, and everybody's tuning in.
I remember that.
That's just wild. The
really
world
is.
was like a smaller, or somehow the world was both smaller and larger.
You're right.
Than to whereas now it feels like it's the opposite.
Did that video start with Macaulay Culkin?
Yes.
And Norm as his dad?
Was that the
Wentz.
Is he tap dancing in that? Or am I getting another video?
I don't think there's tap dancing, but it's George Wendt and Macaulay Culkin, I think. At the beginning, he's in his bedroom, like listening.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I don't know if I remember that part of the video, because I just remember that he was they're like on a stoop, and Macaulay Culkin's there.
Okay.
at like one point in the video.
Right,
I don't remember the big. Well, I know what I'm going to be watching when I leave.
Yeah.
But man, Michael Jackson is one of those art. I love Michael Jackson. I grew up loving Michael Jackson, and you know, I feel like, not to get too much into the issues with Michael Jackson, but like
there's like I like feel like I've had to put it into, and this is probably still wrong. There's probably still people that's like, no, that's still fucked up. But like my thing is like, there's person Michael Jackson, and there's
that's exactly what I was going to say. Yes, it's like, and I think no, it's fine. But I feel like a lot of people feel that way, and I think you have to view art like that in general, because
I agree with that.
You can't like, I mean, we would lose so much art and culture if we just decided we're not going to listen to.
And we're only going to focus on
people who just never did bad things, right? I mean, like, I think,
it's like hard though, because it's like there's certain degrees. Like it's just there's this gray.
Yeah, I don't know. As I'm saying it, I'm like, I don't know if it's that simple, but
yeah, you don't want to know. That's where I'm at. I'm like, I love that song. If he did something,
yeah,
terrible,
don't tell me. Like,
don't tell me.
Yeah, like, yeah, like I went and saw Regina and I went to see Ryan Adams when he a couple tours ago when he God, where did we go to? Atlanta maybe, and he was doing a solo.
Oh, the Tabernacle.
I think that's where
Was
we
he playing
were.
there?
But I like posted some pictures of us at the show on Instagram, and I got like people were like hating on me for going. I'm like, he's still an amazing songwriter. Like he's still great, and I like that music was really important to me at an early age, and I still love it.
Same.
I don't know.
Same, dude, like I feel the same way, but there's even but if like folks are in the car or like something like that, it's like I have to second guess, like, do I still listen to this fucking song that I've loved, blah, 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 that I have my own personal relationship with.
Right.
And then it's hard. See, and the crazy thing, too, is how much, like, everybody loves, like, a comeback story or, like, a turnaround thing.
Yeah.
Like Robert Downey Jr., right? Great example of that. Obviously different medium,
Right.
but a great example of that. And then, so it's kind of the thing of like, but in this day and age, and with how information's exchanged and how fast it moves and how fast everybody's just on to the next thing, there's like, is there room for that really? Like, is it like, or like in Ryan Adams' case, like, is there, like, what would be the thing to where it would turn back around? Because there's like, because like you said, like so much of that music to me is like, or like I think I look at it like, or I see it a lot like you do, because it's like really important.
Yeah.
And then like the time in that we found each other, like that whole thing. But so like I feel like it feels wrong to be like, oh well, can't listen to that anymore, because it's not just his anymore.
No.
It's mine now too.
And it's everybody's. Like the moment you, that's the thing is like we've talked about this on the podcast a handful of times now, because I feel like it's interesting how many people think about this that create music. Is, you know, when I write a song, it means something to me, and it's coming from a personal place, right? But I feel like even that as a writer, the song is not entirely mine, even from the beginning. Like I am.
Oh wow! So like from the onset.
From the onset, because I heard Tom Waits say this once, and he talked about how when I heard this quote, and I'm not going to quote him exactly, but just the general context is like, when I heard it I was like, holy shit! Here I'm hearing this about Tom Waits, and this is exactly how I feel about writing. So it was very affirming to me. But he talked about how like he was receiving the signals from the universe.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the songs would come to him, he wasn't sure if they were meant for him initially. Like he had to like court them like it was a woman sometimes, or he had to have a conversation with the song. Like he felt like there's this information, right? And it's going to filter through somebody. Somebody's going to create something with this.
Just channeling.
And yeah, he channels it. And I've always felt like that. Like sometimes I don't know what a song is about until I've had some distance from it. I mean, I know certain aspects of it, but I look back at it and I'm like, holy shit. Like,
it's like, oh, I was writing about
this.
I thought I was writing about.
Right, yeah. And so I feel like because as artists, we have that opportunity to, you know, to be like these we're just like satellites and transmitters. Like there's this exchange of information, and it filters through us, and we release it to the world. It's already not entirely ours. And then once you hear it, the listener hears it. Even if you could go do interviews and talk personally about what your songs are about, but it's when the listener first hears it, they don't know that, and whatever they're going through in their life, like it connects with them in a certain way, and it means something entirely different to them, and so it becomes theirs, like you said, and so now it's like, well, Ryan Adams might be a shitty person, Michael Jackson might have been a shitty person, but those songs are everybody's. They were always everybody's, and he created them, and we should honor that. That artist to have the ability to bring us that beautiful art, but like. It becomes something so much greater, and I feel like I'm not gonna like lie to myself in the world and say, well, I hate Ryan Adams now because he turns out to be a dirtbag,
Look, because because he did this,
right, and
this. I'm like, well, that's none of my business,
right? It's not,
yeah. I mean, do I agree with it? No,
right.
But I'm not him, and that's that. So I'm gonna go do my shit, and
right?
He can do his shit,
yep.
And
so it's like and. I guess that's not everybody's going to view it the same, but to me, that's how I look at all art.
It's like hard. Like I've had this. I agree with you on that. Like, cause for me though, I always think like it's like I really like the time from when the mixes are done, or like mastering's done, till the time it comes out, cause I feel like that time. Obviously, there's like you have your own thoughts about just releasing it and like things like that, but it's still mine, and like nobody else's yet. Like it hasn't turned 18; it's not moving out of the house,
right.
And then it's released. Well, now it's everybody's, and I really like that because then like I like feel that I almost like you have time to like. It's like, well, these are going to be our last days together, just
right. You have those.
Let's make the most of it.
Yeah,
Like,
so that's I like
it's the
that.
last 2 days of vacation, so
Right.
you don't want to leave the beach. But
normally through the mixing process and everything, like, like you've listened to it so much, but like very critically, that it's nice to, or like it takes a little bit of time. To like switch your brain, like, okay, well, you can't change anything. So you can sit here thinking about, oh shit, I wish I would have sang this instead of that. Or you can like listen to the thing as a whole for what it is. And then, so it takes a little bit of time. And maybe that's why I like that time too, because it gives me the opportunity to have to create a new relationship.
Yeah, I have to see that doesn't happen for me until after it's been released.
Yeah, just until it's completely out of your hands.
And it's I like your analogy of like, now you're 18 and you're out of the house. Because I do have that period with a song where I'm like, I do that. When we finish a song, I'll listen to it a lot. I listen to it a lot throughout the whole process because I'm just trying to,
well, to make sure that you're covering all your bases.
Exactly.
Maybe there's something I didn't think of. Maybe I'll hear something new this time.
Yeah. But it's still, it's like I'm still thinking about it from the perspective of the producer and the writer, I think, up until I can let go of it and say like, okay, nothing can be changed anymore.
Fly away.
Yeah.
Nothing can be changed.
Be free.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. It's like, so when you write songs, do you tend to, as a band, do you guys tend to get in a room and like, are you guys bringing ideas to the table and saying, hey, let's work on this, or do you guys get in the room together and say we're going to write something from the ground up ever?
Lately, it leans heavier to that.
Okay.
Like let's just start from nothing, and like a lot of the songs on the new record came from just like ideas, or like someone like Sean would be like, yo, I got this riff, you want to work on it? And then we'd be like, yeah. And then to whereas also we used to like just like get in a room, like a rehearsal room, and then like hash it out.
Yeah.
Now with the technology, it's so much better as far as efficiency, time, because like you can try all the things without having to explain it
right
over and over. And oftentimes the communication's hard because you're hearing things a certain way, or thankfully at this point, all of us in the band have a very similar like musical language, like when we're trying to describe what we're looking for, or like what we're hearing. And but it can be very difficult, like when you're trying to explain something and maybe you're just not using the right vocabulary because yours is different from the other person's. And then now 2 hours have gone by and you haven't tried. I just put an E at the end. That's the only thing I want to hear.
Right.
And then now you can just clickety-clack.
Yeah.
This? No?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Sing.
That's what made me want to learn how to produce and
Same.
engineer records.
You just want to do
Same.
it. You didn't want to have
I
to
got
tell
so
anybody
frustrated
anything.
just like trying to communicate and not understanding the language and knowing the fact that music is so abstract and even production and audio, the whole thing is so much about feeling that like to
A lot of it doesn't have a language.
Yeah.
You literally can't.
Yeah, so it's
say
like
out loud what you want.
yeah, you're just like, well, I can
More
just do it.
It's like, what the fuck does that mean, man? I don't know. Like,
I've had people say, "Can you make the drums a little more twinkly?" And I'm like,
You're
"Oh,
like-
I actually kind of get that. I know what you're saying. Like, I can make them
wait, like, not
twinkly.
hit us? Or like, what's like move to the right?
Just kind of like crystally, like on the cymbals.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
so make it twinkly. And I was like, oh, I think I got that.
Yeah.
I always just say like, "Is that how you want it to sound?" And like,
Yeah, you're like, wait, I don't know. Is it how I want it to sound?
sure?
Are you being a dick right now? Yeah.
Did we listen to the Michael Jackson song or did we skip that?
Oh, I don't think
we're talking
We got
about-
off on a tangent.
all right,
know what you wanna try. Every time you see Do you remember when we fell in love? We were young and innocent then. Do you remember how it all began? It just seemed like heaven, so I did it. Do you remember back in the fall? Remember again all day long. Do you remember us holding hands? Remember each other's eyes we stare.
every one of our records, it's always like a little bit of an argument to like, could we leave that in there? Can you please leave that there? Like, just the extra stuff.
Yep.
Because all that stuff's my favorite.
Yeah.
shit.
You're talking about just like the vocal, the little like the breaths and the little the
Yeah.
little like expressions of like emotive expressions and stuff, yeah.
master at that.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was
Yeah.
definitely a master at that.
Because it's like, then like, there's this other thing, you come out of it like you made a new friend somehow. Because like, it's also like this like it's like or like behind the scenes footage almost. Like you're getting a little peek
Yeah.
more into what this personality is
Yeah.
that you're hearing.
That's a good-
You know who else was
And
good
I really
at that?
like that.
Was Freddie Mercury.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
He was so good. Like it just before his phrases, and after them, he would always add like a little.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's
So
a
dope.
curious thing because you gotta wonder if that was informing other people like the
Right.
Quincy Joneses or the Michael Jacksons or
Oh,
like,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Today's episode of For the Birds was shot at Susu Studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. Susu is my home base. It is also the home base of music producer and video editor extraordinaire Chris Waldorf. If you're an artist or a band looking for a place to cut your next record, look us up at www.susustudio.com.
like there's some buddies that you can tell immediately like or like just because you know I'm like oh this isn't you, what are you
Right.
doing, dude?
Right.
And then and that's the thing I think we were talking about earlier of like where is the like this isn't real anymore, this doesn't feel true, like
Right.
so what are you doing?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
like if we were, I think, or like, I don't know. It's just really hard to know. And like I was saying, we're the experiment.
Isn't it kind of weird? I was just thinking about this now, but like, there's a lot of artists that I don't even really want to see in those mediums. Like,
Yeah,
if
oh.
Bob Dylan was alive today, would you want to be like, I'm eating a hot dog, and like he's like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm about to release,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
like a Rolling Stone today. It's like, it'd be so strange.
Well-
it's like getting texts from your parents. I always feel weird when my parents text me. I'm like, why are they texting me?
There's
I know.
5 words and 5 different texts because they hit enter after
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
I feel proud anytime I get a text from my dad. I'm like, you did it.
You did. Way to go, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, text conversations with my mom are hilarious because I'll send her a text, and then I can just see I can see the little bubbles pop up, like she's trying to type, and then they'll go away. Then they pop back up, then they go away, and this will go on for minutes, and then finally it's just like yes, like,
Like, what happened?
Okay.
I accidentally sent my mom the middle finger emoji because I use it all the time, and it's your emojis pull up, and they're the most frequently used, and I meant to send a heart, but it was
You said the exact opposite.
fuck you, Mom. Yeah, I was like, sorry.
On that like the social media front, I'm just curious. So like a band like Taking Back Sunday, you guys obviously developed your core fan base and following prior to. Right. I mean, there's what MySpace was around when you guys were getting started. I mean, but like you weren't reliant upon that to build your foundation. And so now, do you guys feel like you need to participate in that in order to keep your fans informed? I mean, or is it like?
I feel that I think that anyone would have a hard time not feeling like that now. And like as much as I'm complaining, like it was a really great example you brought up about mother outside, because then immediately I'm like, well, here I am complaining. I did it again. I'm sorry.
Oh, third strike, you're out, man.
Yeah.
Or you're in.
Yeah. If all goes well. But like I think MySpace helped us greatly. And so it's like, okay, well, here I am complaining.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Well,
if it wasn't for that, like, I don't think I probably wouldn't be sitting here or like have the same opportunities that
yeah, I mean, it's the same for us. We were in a band called the Noises 10 that recorded with Eric Valentine.
Yeah.
That's how we came across him, and we were discovered by somebody on MySpace who put out this some kind of
Compilation.
compilation, monthly like industry compilation that Eric subscribed to.
Yeah.
And like
Wow, that's
so the
really
guy
cool,
messaged me on MySpace, and I thought it was just like some BS spam thing, and I didn't get back to him for months, and finally I'm like, oh yeah, cool, man, here you sure put our song on there. And then like 6 months later, literally out of the blue, Eric Valentine called me, and I was like,
"Ah!"
yeah, and he was like he had just done some stuff with Maroon 5 and was from him, what he said was, he's basically like, I've worked with a lot of big bands right now, and I just needed a break. And I was kind of on a break, just feeling burnt out of working with big rock stars. And I discovered this kind of no-name indie band, and I thought it'd be cool to see what I could do to help you. And it was one of those things, and it never would have happened had we, it never would have happened if it wasn't for MySpace.
Right.
So, but it was like, but at the same time, we were that band that was like, making handbills. We would burn CDs with 2 or 3 songs on them and put a handbill in the CD envelope with like all of our upcoming shows, and we would go out to whatever band we loved that was coming through town that was bigger, and we would like put that on your windshield or give it to people. And our thought was like, well, sometimes you might throw a handbill away if it's just paper, but if you got a CD in it, you might put it in your car on the way home and listen to it. And we were doing all the organic grassroots shit, like trading dates with other bands and all this stuff. So while the big opportunity came from that, it didn't feel like we weren't like posting stuff regularly or whatever. You know what I mean? And now it's like
you weren't like we need to focus heavy on this.
Right.
Like it's like, okay, we'll do that. Okay, but now let's do the actual
right.
work.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. It was a big part, and I'm sure for a lot of bands that were in the early 2000s, that was a big part of how they reached people. But it's different now because you could go to MySpace at that point, and it was really about music. I mean, I think, like, it seemed like, it was a social media platform to interact with your friends, but bands were like, I know a lot of people I knew were going on there to discover new cool indie bands, and even MySpace had their own little MySpace Records thing for a while. They were like, they would like promote us and shit, and so it just.
Well, and they would make like the playlist too, right?
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. Now you're competing against things that have nothing to do with music and art on the same platform. There's not like a platform that's designated for just those things.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
that alone. All right, music industry,
Yeah.
like buckle up.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Are you going to tell me you don't have the money to do that?
Right.
You have the money to do that.
Right.
right, right.
Because
Yeah.
it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
Like, do that.
I wonder why
And now we're not beholden to,
I don't know why they're dragging their feet on that. I mean, there's got to be a reason.
because nobody wants to lose their job.
Yeah.
And then like that's all it is. I
Right,
think that like there's like who's taking the big risks? Nobody.
Yeah.
That I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't think. And then too, it's like it's there. A lot of what I've seen, and I could be wrong. And for anything that I say, like that's like leaning more towards this negative thing. Like there's of course like 10 positives. But like now they're leaning more towards stuff that like if it already has traction, they'll work with it
Safe
or
bet.
they'll try to do something. But for much smaller, so their risk is less.
Yeah.
And I get it, like business, right? But like where's or like the whole like artist and or like the development or like things like that, the opportunities, it's like that like I know that that's still happening. It's just not happening in the same way, same time frame or something.
Sure.
Like, and that is, well, I guess there's a bunch of different ways to look at that because then it's like, okay, well, maybe now it's a little bit out of these gatekeepers' hands, and it's just up to you to do the thing. But it's like it's difficult when. Or for me at least, just for me personally to find, like I grew up like my aunt Bibi, gave me her old camcorder, but it was one of the camcorders that you took a piece out of the VCR, and you wore it, had like a strap, and then you plugged the camera part into it, and it would record on the tape on the belt.
Those, yeah.
And then so like we grew up like making videos with our friends and like doing all this stuff, but so there's room for that. I like feel like with my group of friends and like things, I like to think we're all hilarious, and then I'm sure, and it's but like there's something about having the pressure of like this or like if you do this, if you make this, then this other thing that you love and is a part of you like will do better. But so like you focus on this for a certain amount of time, and then you come in and you only focus on this stuff, and then it's like that doesn't seem right to me, and my brain doesn't understand like how to make the two things work together yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably just why I talk shit about social media so
Yeah.
much. Is my own shortcoming. Like I haven't figured it out. I know what I don't want to do, but I don't know.
Totally.
And then that's kind of the impression I was getting from.
Yeah, it's the same way.
were
It's
saying,
it's
too.
hard to. It feels. Sometimes I just feel like, well, I'm too old. I'm too old to understand.
No,
it, you know?
I never say that. No.
Well, you,
No.
you got the funky geezer in town, you know, and
true. That's true
he
as well.
blew up on TikTok or whatever.
yeah, he
so
did.
He got like, I don't know, millions and millions of views on a lot of his.
All right.
stuff.
Well, I can't use that
So,
excuse.
you're not
All
too
right.
old.
No.
You're just too lazy.
But he's only 37, so.
He's only 30. Yeah, no, but I have mixed feelings about it because it is. It's like, it's nice to know that there is a path that anybody has access to that you can directly find fans, listeners, supporters of your art and your music through. That's
Yeah.
great. But it's a curse in the same regard because everybody has access to it, and when everybody has access to it, now it's just inundated with anything and everything
it's
that you could
flooded,
possibly
yeah.
imagine, and it's like, well, how do
Anything
you
and
cut
everything all of the time.
all the
There's a
time? How do you
song
cut through the
written
noise?
like that.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. So it's tricky.
Yeah, there. Well, like the more that like I'm thinking and we're talking about, like I'm realizing, like, oh, like it's me. like it's now. Granted, like, do I think that like the main consumption of like music or something like that, or even using that word, or is weird, but like, do I think that just like little snippets of things that you're getting for like however long through your scroll, like, is that the best way? I don't think so. But there's definitely a way. Like, there's a way. You just have to figure it out. Like, whatever, or that truth, whatever that real is for you, and then just do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, maybe it's another thing of, even like with the recording process of like shedding this thing of like, oh, I can't use that plugin, or like, oh, like I want to use that because blah blah blah. That's bullshit.
Right.
Like, use it, and like, maybe it's the same kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Like, or like, and I just need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we all need to get rid of that because like nobody else is thinking that way about us and like whatever we're doing.
Right.
We'll second guess something. Oh, I don't want to use that. That's not me. I don't want to use that sound or whatever. Like, there's nobody else out there that's having that thought that you're having right now.
Right.
Right. That
You
is
know,
When
no
they
one-
when
no
they
one's thinking
when they
about
listen
it.
to your music, they're not like, I don't like this because they went too deep with the
Yeah.
technology or something. So why not? Yeah, adopt it with all. It's like we can't deny the fact that that's the direction we're going in as a society with whether it's with social media or the creation of music. You know, so you can embrace it and figure out your own way to make it work for you that feels real and feels
Yeah.
natural to who you are. Or you can be, you know, like what was the song Bart brought on that last episode, Dinosaur? Or you could be like Hank Williams Jr. and say, I'm a dinosaur and I will never change.
Yep.
You know.
See, like, yeah, well, because that's like a
Line in the sand.
line in the sand. Thank you. Oh my god. And then, well, but it's like another Bob Dylan quote: "Change with the times, or you sink like a stone." Mm-hmm. Like, it's you can apply that to this very thing.
Yeah.
Which I think about a lot, but then I just go right back to the like, no, I just don't want it. 'Cause I don't get it. And it's like, no, I need to try harder.
Yeah.
It's like a wild thing too, because like, it's all something that, like, or like it's all guesswork. Because it's like the Wild West, dude. Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's not. I haven't talked to one person that like, it's like, oh yeah, this, like do this.
Yeah.
It's like nobody fucking
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
man.
I think that's the music industry has been like the Wild West since streaming was introduced, really. you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like, what are we doing? You know, how do we figure this out? How do we make money? How do we, you know, it's just kind of.
Well, like I heard Tom Wally, who was the president of Warner Brothers, told me once, said, can't beat free. I was like, oh shit, you're right.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and I went, man, that's. It's like, well, I don't know where to go from
You
there.
can't argue with
because
that
you're
at all.
right. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, well, again, that's a whole nother.
Yeah. What did you have next on the song list?
Lounge Act from an album and a band I've never heard of, Nirvana.
Yeah, there. So Lounge Act was more there. Obviously, Smells Like Teen Spirit is the song, and then Lithium. Lithium was the song that really did it for me. But it was a while until I actually got the record,
Yeah.
and it came into my life around like '92, like around there, and it like I wanted to dress differently. I wanted to like act like there's something about it, and there's something about just the sound of that record.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it is. Like there's just like a little bit of chorus on everything, which took me a long time to figure out. But once I figured that out, I'm like, okay, that pedal stays on,
Right.
always down.
Yeah.
Like and like it's one of those things that, like, the thing that I've noticed with our band too is that because we've been able to do it for so long, that now, like, going to shows, you know, it's anywhere from like teenagers to like people close to 50, and everywhere in between, they're all getting lost to the same thing at the same time. And then because like they found us at just the right time, whatever it was they were going through. And I feel that, or like that's some of the magic, like just
Yeah.
in music in general. And that is 100% true. Well, for the next two things, but definitely for Nirvana, it's like when I found that and was ready to like let it into my life, it's like it was the exact thing I think I needed. or I felt I needed at that time. And then so that's just one of the things that's so magical about it. Also, Chris Novoselic's bass playing is so very highly underrated, because if you listen to any Nirvana song, with the exception of some of Bleach, he is busy, and you don't even, or I don't know, you guys, with me, I didn't notice until like 20 years later, like, oh my God, he's like just walking.
It's a perfect
just always walking.
piece to the song. Like if you took it out, you'd be like, what the hell? It's like it's missing everything.
There'd be very
but
little
it's
to
perfect
it.
It blends from,
It makes
current
sense
days.
too, because I mean, Kurt's guitar was so just like power chords,
Straightforward,
simple, straight,
yeah.
and it's like that space between the drum and the rhythm section, the drum and bass was just there's room to fill.
And Chris played his bass so low too. I don't know how he.
Oh yeah,
I was like down to his knees.
Yeah.
And like,
think how long that strap had to be, because he's like 6 foot something.
He's huge.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It's like funny when that changed, because that changed somewhere, or like he would wear his real low, and then like all like the punk rock guys like super low, and then okay, here comes 1996 or 1995, 6, and like there's
Rivers Cuomo playing up high. All
yeah
that.
here, but then even further like the indie stuff like Engine Down, and they're like here,
Yeah.
and then like it's funny how that kind of goes through like these waves, you know, just the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
I definitely tied like two like police line do not cross straps together just to
Oh,
have
hell
that shit all put down,
Just so low.
like down my feet.
Butch Vig
did
yeah.
that. Albini did
In Utero.
That's right.
Which is
God, that record.
a crazy thing with Albini too, like to hear him talk about it, because he's like I don't do points, I don't want any, like I do this job, it's a trade,
Right.
you pay the rate and that's it.
Huh.
Which is a crazy character move, I think, to make.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the biggest rock band pretty much in the whole entire world. They're changing, like they are pushing Michael Jackson down the charts. They're pushing Guns N' Roses completely out of the picture.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or like these other bands like that. Motley Crue, gone.
Yep.
You know why? These guys.
Yep.
And Soundgarden and shit. So, and then they go in to make their follow-up record to this giant thing, and he's like, no, this is what I believe, this is what I'll charge you, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's non-existent in the world we live in today, I think.
It's some level of integrity that's like, whoa.
Wow.
Like, I don't know if I would have that in me. And I admire it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I think that
Because he would still be getting paid now.
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Mailbox money.
Yeah.
And yeah, but he's like, that's not what I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's Frank Iero has done like 2 or 3 records with him now. And then so talking with Frankie about it and just like working with him. After they did the last record they did, they all just started wearing like it's like the flight mechanic suit thing. And like that's their stage thing.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it, and they're like, yeah, this is what Steve would wear to work. like, okay, like, so that guy's just really something
That's
else.
so funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But when I discovered Nirvana, that definitely was a game changer for me. I mean, I know it was for everybody, but yeah, I was that kid that was like wearing cardigan sweaters and
Chuck Taylors.
Yep, yep, and just
I was pissed because you couldn't find the kind like the Jack Purcells that he had.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't find that anywhere.
Yeah.
In High Point, North Carolina.
sure. He was just incredible.
Even like just like the lighting in "Smells Like Teen Spirit" music video.
Oh my
Just like-
God! Yeah.
Just like everything about all of it, all the imagery and all that stuff. You're just like, this is cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is it? Well, there's a lot of mystery in that video.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until, if I'm remembering it right, and like I could be wrong, but like it wasn't until like a little ways into the song to where you're actually like even like seeing their faces, but then their faces are all shadows, so you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
who are these people?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and contrast that to social media, right? The mystery. That's one thing we do miss out on now is we don't get
Yeah.
that, like the
That's one of the biggest things that I've missed.
yeah,
Is like the lore that's like,
yeah.
like, because what, is there any artist you can think of today, currently, that has that?
No, yeah. I
I
mean,
don't think so.
it's like I can't even think of names of artists, but I know you have people that do like the weird thing where they wear masks or whatever. I don't know, like who's the guy that walks around with
Marshmallow.
like yeah, that kind of shit. But
Or like
yeah, I mean-
Orville Peck has that mask, though it's a different.
yeah,
for
right.
different
Like half
reasons.
of his face is covered, right?
Yeah, it has like the tassels.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you don't
yeah.
get but still you're seeing that presence on social media. Even if he's concealing his face, So
Yeah.
I don't know. That was very cool. I mean, like I remember listening to that. I remember getting that cassette tape and opening up the liner and just like that was what you knew, and then you'd maybe get whatever music publication, Spin Magazine or whatever, and you'd get to read about them. But like your imagination filled in the rest, and that was
Yeah,
that was it.
because
you
that's
know?
all you had.
yeah. That was-
You wore that cassette out in high school. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like every time I came over, you were just blasting it.
You're like, but have you heard this?
Non-stop.
You're like, yeah, yes, I have. 900 times.
Yeah.
Turn it up.
But yeah, you killed it.
definitely informed my musical choices for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
And what's cool about them, when we were in high school, we could actually play their songs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
like,
like,
you could figure out
we
the
can cover
changes, you
this.
could
We can
cover
play
the
this,
songs,
and so
right.
we'd play on the
like
back
when
porch
we could
for
barely
our
play our
friends.
instruments at all, we could play Nirvana songs.
Yeah.
Well, Come As You Are was the first song I learned on guitar. And because now it's like, not only is it doing something to me that I don't understand, but I could do, it's accessible in a way of like, it's going to take me 2 weeks, but I'm going to play the intro to Smells Like Teen
Yeah.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there was definitely like a talent show, battle of bands thing or something when I was like, real young. I was playing like Breed, with the band that we,
Oh yeah.
probably
man.
sounded super tight and perfect. But, it happened like we did that.
yeah, like, because you could,
Yeah, yeah. It was true for a lot of the bands that I was listening to at that time. Just bands that kind of the grunge era, like bands that were not quite punk but coming out of that era of music. That were just embracing the.
Do kids get that nowadays though? Like, is there like some band that are like, we're gonna cover this Harry Styles song, and they're like all like 13, but like the song's like way too complex and has like way too many things going on? Like, do they get to do that with like a lot of? I'm trying to think of like a band that would be the equivalent to like Nirvana was for all of us.
Yeah.
to, like,
Yeah, now.
like, is there? Like,
I don't know, because the bands that are that popular now, it's not that the songs themselves are complex as much as it's the construction of the songs, the production element. Like you can't recreate a Harry Styles song as easily with your acoustic guitar or with a trio.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
going to be, and that's. I mean, I love listening to those types of records as well. I don't want to like. I love
he's got
diving
great
into
songs.
the great songs and
Dude,
like records that
incredible songs.
yeah
Huge
records
fan,
that like
huge fan.
lean on production in that way. I think are really cool, and
Yeah.
that's like a whole different thing that where I'll go down those rabbit holes of just like, wow, how did they make that drum not sound like a drum? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? How do they like use instruments in a way that don't feel familiar? They feel like a totally unique sound that serves this song. I love that element, in those types of artists like Taylor Swift and whatever, that get to, make those deeply produced records that have all that breadth in them. But like, yeah, how do you?
But when they space, like when there's an artist like Harry Styles, for example, he'll have like one of those crazy arrangements, and then he'll have like the Sign of the Times, where it's just like piano.
Well, that's
like,
a song.
You could
Yeah.
cover that,
Yeah.
have that guitar come in, or like Taylor Swift did that with like Lover. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just like piano, acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
So it's like they kind of have all the different elements of like, this is like there's 80 tracks on this, and
Right.
this one's like stripped down. So it's almost cooler when they're like, when those songs get really popular, you're like, oh, it's just acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
People love that. That's cool. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's like, oh, they still like that. Okay, oh shit, I was worried.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the last song you had on your list here. This is a band that I had never heard of, you know, and I went on their Spotify to listen to this, and I was like, there's got to be something. But never heard of the band, never heard of any of the songs. So fill us in.
When I was in high school, I was like, there were these bands that are, well, this band called Pest. They all went to the same school, but they were like 2-3 years older than I was. And then so they'd like have these local shows, and it was always like, there was one band called Deadweight, another band called Pest, another band called 30 Deep, and later Code 7 actually. And these guys were the, like, I was the kid following them around, like, hey guys, could I play? You know, that kind of thing. And one of the guys, Matt, who I haven't spoken to in maybe like 5 or 6 years now, but it just, like, I looked up to him so much. And once he let me borrow 2 records, or 2 CDs. He let me borrow Earth Crisis, Destroy the Machines, and Lifetime, Hello Bastards. And I put in the Earth Crisis one, and I was like, this isn't for me. And I put in the Lifetime one, and it just, there's something about, specifically the record Hello Bastards, there's something about the way it sounds that, and I still don't know what it is, but it's like there's something about it that I have a very physical, like something happens physically that I can't explain. And so this record, it's short. It's like a really short record. Most every Lifetime song is like do that, do that, do that, do that.
Yep.
And then but so it's coming from this world of that, but there's also these melodic elements to it, because he's kind of doing like that Dag Nasty Brian Baker guitar thing, to where, like, yes, it's power chords, but then they'll do more than just strum. Or like now we're introducing like more of the full bar chord.
Okay, you're saying like the harmonic spectrum is more covered, right? So it's like
right, it's like more lush somehow.
Right.
And it's still aggressive, but there's something beautiful about it.
More color.
Yeah.
with that,
Right.
Thirds. Yeah.
And then just there was also like, at the time, I was inserting myself into every song. I mean, like, he's obviously singing about more grown-up things than like a 14 or 15-year-old kid would understand, but I made it mine, much like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And this record was just on repeat. The first Job Stopper tattoo that I got was is a Lifetime lyric, and like which I don't even think that's a thing anymore, like a Job Stopper tattoo. I don't think that's a thing, but it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And the record after that they put out was called Jersey's Best Dancers, and they broke up shortly thereafter. And there was one time they came to Chapel Hill, and I was 14, and some of my other friends, or like the older guys I was talking about, were going, and I wanted to go so bad, but my dad's like, "No, man, I'm not. You're not driving up 40 with these kids that I don't know," which I understand now,
Yeah.
but at the time I was furious, heartbroken, and then so I never had the chance to see him play, and which was like a big. Which just I think made it an even bigger thing, because they're already my favorite band, and then now,
right.
like, couldn't see them. But they did these reunion shows at the Stone Pony, and it was right before in Asbury Park, right before they did a skate and surf one year, and I went, and it was, oh my God, I'm there with Matt Galley, who's our booking agent. We've been he's been with us. We've worked together. Like, he's the only one we've ever had, and then like he's one of my favorite people in the whole entire world, and we're both like climbing on the crowd, and the whole thing, and oh my God, it was so great. And then I don't know if it was that year or like a year or two later, they played the festival, which I think, I can't remember if it turned into Bamboozled. No, yeah. When it was Bamboozled, they played that, and we were on it, and it was really funny because my dad came and drove up, and then I just got back from doing some kind of press or something, and then my dad's like, hey, I just talked to the Lifetime guys. They'd love to meet you. Come on over. And I'm like, no, I can't ever meet these people, because the idea of them and what that means to me.
Maybe your dad was just trying to redeem himself for not letting you go see him the first time. So, yeah.
Oh, you know what? There might have been a little bit of that into it, because I'll still bring that up now. I'm like a grown man.
Did you end up meeting him, or did you?
No.
No. Wow.
I don't ever want to.
Wow.
Because like they're it's like too important to me, but
You want that mystery.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also I just don't want it to change. Like I'm like,
You walk in, he's wearing like khaki cargo shorts and a football jersey, and you're like, damn.
yeah, I'm like,
Christopher
well,
Cross.
that's now I gotta go get some cargo shorts. Actually, at that time, that was the
That was cool.
fashion,
Yeah, yeah.
anyways, which it's coming back around now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw some zip offs in there,
Yeah.
one pant leg.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
But they also, so in 2019, we did this touring, which I went into kicking and screaming, because I'm like, too much nostalgia. Like, I don't want to spend too much time there. Like I think it's good in small doses, like anything else. So, but we did this tour, and we called it the 20-year tour, because it was 1999, like when I moved, and
Okay.
like the thing. So we were celebrating that, because I think, and then how I was justifying it in my head once I got over all the nostalgia stuff that comes with it is that it's like, well, you do anything for 20 years, let alone something as ridiculous as this, you need to celebrate. Like there's somebody needs to get you a watch or something. And because I've seen that in movies, I think it's the same.
Pen.
Yeah, like it's a fountain pen. Oh, thanks, I guess. But we ended, the last show was at Terminal 5 in New York, and the next day, Lifetime was playing, and they hardly ever play. So the next day after that, they were playing at, or maybe it was like 2 days after, the House of Independence, which is in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And then, so Misha flew up, played the show, and that morning we woke up, and this was like a hard lesson in like just Northeast geography for me, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, it'll probably take like an hour to get there, because it's in New Jersey, but it's South Jersey. I didn't know, so it took like 3 hours to get down there. But yeah, so we went to the Lifetime show, and I felt like a kid. I was like, Misha, hold my coat. And then they start playing, because normally like I'm in the back watching, trying to see what gear they're using, and then like, oh, are they running tracks? Oh, what's he doing? Oh, like kind of thing. Yeah. And then, but for this, it was like, it's like I couldn't help it. Yeah. And I'm like climbing on people's heads and singing along and the whole thing. And the tour was over, so I could like, okay, blowing out my voice, here we go. Yeah. And oh my God, it was the best. It's one of the best shows I've been to ever.
So did you keep your buddy's CD, or did you give it back to him?
Gave it back.
Okay.
I gave it back, and at the time there was a place called Planet Hardware at the Ocala Mall in High Point, North Carolina. For anybody that's ever gone through, it's so sad now because it's like deserted. But or I think like the High Point University bought it or something. Doesn't matter. But there was a skate shop in the mall, and I would just go there until finally they were like, okay, we'll hire you.
You're here enough, right?
Yeah.
Might as well pay you for your time.
Yeah, and so there was, oh shit, how did I get on that? Sorry, I got distracted because I
CD.
said the thing about
The CD.
Oh, the CD. Yeah. So from working there, that's how I got the record.
Oh, okay.
Or
Very
the
nice.
CD, because there's also this store in Greensboro called BB's Compact Discs, and you could listen to anything before you bought it. And they had this crazy like indie section, and at the time, like indie section is anything from like Merge Records, Revolution Records, Victory, like the whole thing.
Right.
And then so you could go and listen to these things that like there was no other access unless you listened to like the college radio station or like it's not, I mean, you're not going on your pocket computer like, oh, let me check this song out.
Yeah.
Like and so so that was how I was learning about new stuff. But I remember going there and it was like that and like a Millen Life on a Plate or something. Like I got those 2 CDs from
Right.
working at the skate shop.
Well, let's pull it up, man.
Yeah. It felt like there was something more to it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can hear what you're saying. There's more harmonic stuff happening, especially with the way the ending there. The bass is almost playing some kind of counter melody, like moving under the chords in a way to where it's like it's reharmonizing the chords. It's really interesting.
I would be so tired if I played that genre of music.
Dude, but like this area would be so strong.
It would be, yeah. I wouldn't have chicken legs anymore, I guess, but
Dude,
I couldn't do it. There's no way.
Though short sets, though you'll play like 17
I guess-
songs, 45
Yeah, that was a
minutes.
minute and 57 seconds.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you just got to do that, 10 times.
I'm going to take a
and you're
5-minute break in between each song, though.
Yeah, just need a chatty singer.
So. Yeah.
That's right. So before we won't keep you much longer, but I did want to ask you, just curious, how did you got time?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How did you, being in North Carolina and the band being Northern guys, like how did you guys come to meet? How did you end up like crossing paths with the guys from Taking Back Sunday and forming a band together, just geographically being so far away from each other?
Well, so like those bands I was talking about, like Pest 30 Deep, and so they had met some Long Island bands, like at the time, Sons of Abraham, Movie Life, and Silent Majority, like bands like that. So Long Island bands were coming down and playing High Point, Greensboro, Winston a lot.
Okay.
And vice versa, like the bands from there were going up, they would give them shows up there. And there was a band called Error Type 11, and who like still I still talk to those guys today. But they're how I'm in Taking Back Sunday, because what happened was there was a place in Winston-Salem called 533 Uprisings, and it was in this like it was just kind of like an abandoned downtown building, because the downtown is not what it is today there. And and it was basically, they went in and like it was just DIY, like it was like kids running it. And like all the guys like in high school, I'm following around like them and their extended friends, they're all running this thing. And so I went because Sons of Abraham was playing. Neil Rubenstein sang for that band, and he's doing comedy now, and he's killing it. He's hilarious. And so I went to see them play, and I go and I get out of the car and I'm walking towards the venue, and one of my other buddies there was like, dude, Sons of Abraham canceled. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, well, okay. And I'm walking back to the car, and I see Phil Hanratty, who's the guitar player for Aerotype 11. And I had met them because, like I told you, like I was like the young kid. Like I just wanted to be, like I wanted these older kids that were in the scene to like me so bad.
Yeah.
And so I was just always around like a little puppy. Hey.
Right.
And then, but there was one friend, Paige, and she and I were just always hang out. I'd stay at her house all the time. And like she was kind of like an older sister to me. And oftentimes when bands were coming through and needed a place to stay, they'd stay at Paige's place, and I would too. And so, because I was always there anyways. And then she was like kind of like my protector too, you know, like just awesome. She lives in Portland now, but so I turn the corner and here's Phil Hanratty, and then I'm like, I didn't know you guys were playing. Shit, I'm gonna stay now. And then he's like, oh no, it's not Aerotype. I'm filling in on bass for my buddy's band, and the band is Taking Back Sunday. And so I like watched him, watched the show, watched him play. And Eddie is like Long Island legend as far as that scene. Like he was in Mind Over Matter. He started Movie Life, and then all of this. And Taking Back Sunday was his new band. And they needed a bass player. So then like after the show, we went to the Waffle House, as you do. And we were visiting with him, and I was just like, hey, could I try out for your band? And Ed's like, yeah, I guess, if you want. So went to New York in my Honda Accord, my 1988 Honda Accord, great car, and with my buddy Chris Cab, and tried out for the band. We had a friend that we went to high school with. She was a year ahead of us, and she had just moved to Brooklyn, so we stayed with her, drove out to Long Island, tried out for the band, came back to North Carolina, and then like 2 weeks later, Eddie calls and is like, hey, we have these shows coming up. If you want to do it and you could make it, like, come on.
Yeah.
So at that point, I basically went to New York and just never came home.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm still apologizing to my dad for now, because like they're like the few things that I had, like a futon and like other things, he had to go get from the house I was living in with like 5 other guys over by UNCG. And I still feel really bad that I did that to him.
Wow.
But yeah, so I just never came home. And then not too long after that, Antonio, who was singing, quit. And Eddie was just like, you're singing now. And I'm like, I didn't know how to do that. I still, there's like still so much room for improvement and things I don't understand. But I think it was solely off of like the other bands would be like, oh yeah, you're monkey bass player. Cause I would just like throw myself around and like overcompensating for the fact that like, I'm not very good at this thing.
Right.
And then based off that, I think Eddie's like, well, he would probably
Like
make a good
the
front
stage
guy.
presence. Yeah.
That's why, like, the first couple records, you know, I'm just yelling and hoping that it's the right thing. And then there would be, over the years, like, people, I mean, you know, just saying, like, I don't know why these guys are doing so well because their singer sucks. I'm like, I know. I fucking know. Okay? Like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, yeah. It's like, are you listening? Did you like it? Shut the fuck up. There's like, so, and then now, like, listening to those older songs and things like that is like really difficult for me.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because
Like you're insecure about how it sounds? Is that what it is?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the sound of my voice, like now I've learned more, obviously. Well, I mean, fucking hopefully.
Yeah.
And then, but just the sound, the timbre, nothing dynamic about it. And then,
Well,
so it's
yeah,
hard
that's-
to, it's like hard, so it's hard for me to listen to it because I'm like, I don't understand. Everybody likes this. I'm really glad they do.
Right.
But I don't get
Well,
it.
I get that. I mean, I listen back
loved
to
it at the
stuff.
time.
Yeah, and the stuff we did when we were younger, I listen back to it, and I feel that way. But the difference is you were put on this platform of like a lot of people are going to listen to this stuff. So it's like, you know, the early music I made when I hated my voice, nobody fucking heard it.
Right. And they're never going to. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
that stuff could just live in a vault, you know. But yeah, you're out here making records where you're trying to figure out how to be a lead singer and
In real time.
and
Right.
it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that honesty. Obviously there's something about what you were doing that felt
real to
real.
yeah.
People connected
well,
with it.
it like was because it was all performance for me in those. Well, it is now still. I mean, that's how I see it. Like or like even with the recording stuff, which I feel like why, or just even with our earlier conversations, why like for so long, like I felt like I'm just never gonna get this. Like I just can't. Blah blah blah. But it's because I'm like focusing so much on like or like some kind of perfect. Like, this is the method, and this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And then, well, how come when I follow all those steps, it never sounds like that? What the fuck? And then, but just recently coming to realize, you know, like, oh, because I don't do what that guy does.
Right.
So, like, why am I? And then I don't even like the records that sound the way that those methods lead to records that sound too clean and sterile, stiff, right? However you want to say it. And then, so like, why have I spent like that whole thing?
Right. Yeah.
But it's taken all that time to realize that. So I'm like, okay, well, better late than never, I guess.
Again, it must have worked, man.
Well, it did well.
It did work.
And well, like, still though, like, I feel that though, like, looking back, like, there's so many, you know, when you look back on like, as I'm sure everybody feels, like this thing of like, oh man, why did I do that? Or why did I say this? Or why did I, it's just like that thing you're running
do it
in
all
your
day,
head.
every day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it sucks for you. I'm awesome all the time. And so, but even like through that, like I realize now, looking back on it, that in those earlier days, like those earlier times, like I was doing so much trying to overcompensate for this thing because I know I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
And I know the parts about it that I don't like, and they're very large and blaring, and there's no ignoring them to me. And then so I feel that because of that, but I can't admit it to myself. Here I am acting out, fucking just. And a lot of overcompensating. Right. Some of the overcompensating, I think, was really healthy, as far as just what music is to me and can do for me. Because that whole thing of like getting lost or total freedom or forgetting yourself, forgetting your sense of self. I mean, that's why people like eat mushrooms, you know, like, cause it helps to make a connection that's not there. Like, cause now, like your ego's not driving, cause it can't.
Right.
Sure.
And in those moments to where like you can just get lost and your body's lost, and it's like this like primal kind of. So in that aspect, that part of it, I think was so healthy, and that taught me how to use like that music in general. And those opportunities as a tool for like this trouble, you know, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, great. In the other sense, you're like 20 years old and in an interview and somebody's asked you questions and you're feeling like you're playing cool, but inside you're like, oh, I don't belong here. What the fuck's going on? This shit. You're gonna end up saying some dumb shit that you regret, and I did a lot of that. But I realize why now. I mean, you know, hindsight's always perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing about like music is music is art, it's expression, and there's so many ways to approach it. And I mean, for me personally, I think the vocal aspect, like the voice, is one of those things where you can learn to be a technically proficient singer, and that's really cool. Just like it's cool to learn to be a great guitar player or whatever your instrument is. But the ability to just like be able to express yourself effectively is really the most important part, I think. And so when you have
effectively, I like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
do I like I spent a lot of time trying to learn to be a technically good singer, and I appreciate that, you know, but at the same time, I look back at my favorite singers, and with the exception of like Jeff Buckley, you know, people like that who are just like, you know, amazing, you know, and just like nobody can touch that type of singing. It's like most of my favorite singers, I don't know if they were really singers or if they were just carrying and expressing the art effectively, you know.
Right.
Like we talked about Bob Dylan before. I mean, Bob Dylan is by far my favorite singer-songwriter of all time.
Yeah.
And he had a cool voice, but he wasn't like a good singer,
Well,
right?
like-
If we're being objective about it, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, like Dave Grohl has that whole thing, like, or there's an interview that I saw, and they were asking him, like, what do you think about these shows, like The Voice or American Idol and stuff? He's like, and he had a great answer. Part of that answer, he cited Bob Dylan. He's like, could you imagine a young Bob Dylan getting up here and getting ripped apart by those assholes, and then like maybe he never does the thing,
Right.
and then it's like, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
the world would be worse off for it,
Right. Yeah.
And then because he's basically saying, like, he's like, that's my fear, is that it like is turning people like that off,
Yeah. Oh,
or like
absolutely.
making them think they can't do it or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's something I've always leaned on, is like there's been a part of me that's chased, you know, I wanted to be a better musician, and then I kind of at a certain point was like, well, you know, I may not ever be like an amazing musician, but I really love making music, and so
Yeah.
you know, like
There's
it's
like
worked.
I'm probably not ever going to be Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it's taken me a while,
right.
but I realize that now.
But what's good is when you're that guy is to surround yourself with people who like what I've done is guys that are great.
Yeah,
musicians.
I've changed my
Yeah.
analogy of being like you know, in the band, of like putting my piece of the puzzle to it. Where you said earlier about you're courting the song, I'm like, I'm your wingman.
You're my wingman. You're
I
helping
want
me.
you to take the song home.
Yeah.
Like you're off going to the bathroom. He's over there talking to his song. Like, you know, he's also really funny. Charming.
He's got a great car.
Yeah, like, you should give him a chance. He's got it together.
Yeah.
Anyways, you make your own decision. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Adam, man, I appreciate you doing this.
Thank
It's
you
been,
guys for having
like,
me.
A
This
lot
is
of
great.
A lot of
Thank
fun
you so
talking to
much.
you. Yeah.
There's oftentimes when I'm home, I'm like, or like things like this, just music related things, the whole thing, like I'm like pining for it. So like right when you sent text, I was like, yes, no problem. Just find a date that works.
Yeah.
Cause like I don't really have, or like that part of like me doesn't really exist here in Charlotte. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it so like feels nice to, this is great for me, because
Yeah.
then it's like, yes, it does. It does exist in Charlotte,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go exercise it today. It's
Right.
gonna be great.
Yeah.
And it was.
Awesome.
So thank you guys.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.